And finally, I'd like to welcome Jeff Roy, the state representative for Medway and Franklin, to share his perspective and thoughts on January 6th.
Well, thank you, Justin, and thank you to all of the speakers who have been here tonight. Simply amazing, putting January 6th into perspective. And I want to thank each and every one of you who came out here tonight to brave the cold and be a part of this commemoration of the event. Now, Senator Roush had started talking about what went on in the House chamber on January 6th. And I will share with you that the House was under a similar schedule, and we adjourned, yes, around 5 a.m. on January 6th. But there were two items on bills that I had been working on. One as simple as a resolution for one of our Franklin residents, Frank Liotta, commemorating his 90th birthday. That was, I looked at the record today. We did that action, and happy birthday, Frank, wherever you are today. And also a bill that I had been working on for 2 years was passed at around 2 o'clock in the morning, and that was to prevent actions of campus sexual assault in the college campuses across the Commonwealth. Very proud of the work that we had done that day, and got a few hours of sleep, woke up for the convening of the 192nd General Court. And those proceedings began in the House of Representatives at 11:45 a.m. with remarks by the Dean of the House, Representative Kevin Honan. The Dean is the oldest serving member who starts the opening session, and Representative Honan quoted from John F. Kennedy's City on a Hill speech, noting that Massachusetts leaders have shaped our destiny long before the great republic was born. Its principles have guided our footsteps in times of crisis as well as in times of calm. Its democratic institutions, including this historic body, have served as beacons of light for other nations as well as our sister states. And Representative Honan reminded us that as we begin our work anew here in Boston with a new administration coming together in Washington around a country divided and struggling over racial injustice, economic insecurity, and the health crisis of our lifetime, the Commonwealth and the country need that city on a hill, and all of us more than ever. Then the governor administered the oaths, and we elected Representative Ronald Mariano as our speaker. We heard more speeches, and we were invigorated and anxious to begin our work. The proceedings ended at around 2:05 p.m., and I can tell you I was exhausted, and I decided, like Senator Roush, to sit down and watch some television. And I turned on the proceedings in Congress, and I was alarmed within minutes. What I saw unfolding was horrific and defied the logic I had witnessed about lawmaking over the previous 24 hours. Violent extremists had stormed the Capitol in what was the culmination of months of repeatedly disproven lies from the former president about the outcome of the 2020 election. Our democracy was under attack. This was an insurrection, plain and simple. It was a calculated effort to subvert the will of the voters and undermine the peaceful transition of governance. And I immediately thought, as I was sitting here watching this, of my visit to Congress Hall in Philadelphia several years ago. For those of you who may not recall, Congress Hall was the spot where on March 4th, 1797, George Washington made the peaceful transition of power to John Adams. It's where George Washington performed his last public act before retiring to private life. It was the first time in our recorded modern history that power transferred from a head of state to the next without bloodshed or death. What took place in Congress Hall 225 years ago should be our beacon today, but January 6th smashed that beacon and created a dark cloud over America. And it revealed a new force in American politics, not merely a mix of right-wing organizations, but a broader mass political movement that has violence at its core. It revealed that our republic faces an existential threat from a movement that is openly contemptuous of democracy and has shown that it is willing to use violence to achieve its ends. Now, preventing further violence from this movement will require a deeper understanding of its activities and the participants. And to understand the events of January 6th and devise solutions to prevent their recurrence, we Americans need a fine-grained comprehension of who attacked the Capitol. We need to understand the ideology and the beliefs of those who participated, knowing what kind of people they are and what their lives are like. One truth is clear. You can't participate in or support a violent storming of the U.S. Capitol aimed at overturning state-certified election results and still be an American patriot. Further, a citizen can't continue to back anyone who schemed to overturn the election results in extra-constitutional ways and fairly claim the cloak of patriotism. As GOP U.S. Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming said of her Republican Party in a weekend TV appearance, I quote, "We can either be loyal to Donald Trump or we can be loyal to our Constitution. We cannot be both." Now, getting to the bottom of this tragic event is the object of the Bipartisan House Commission, and we anxiously await the public hearings and report. It and the evidence it supplies will help us grapple with the growing distrust in our society and hopefully will help us marshal the force and energy needed to save our democracy from collapse. After Pearl Harbor and 9/11, our country mobilized a call to arms with unprecedented unity and determination to defeat the enemies of democracy. Today, those who undermine our government and threaten our future are living within our own borders. The attack on the Capitol on January 6th has to be reckoned with honestly and judiciously now, before our political and social differences divide us even further and further. As President Biden said just this morning, at this moment, we must decide what kind of a nation we are going to be. Are we going to be a nation that accepts political violence as a norm? Are we going to be a nation where we allow partisan election officials to overturn the legally expressed will of the people? Are we going to be a nation that lives not by the light of the truth, but in the shadow of lies? We cannot allow ourselves to be that kind of nation. The way forward is to recognize the truth and live by it. With that, I urge everyone who's with us here tonight. I urge you to stay engaged. I urge you to work to support your democracy and remain hyper-vigilant towards those who threaten its very existence. We remain that city on the hill. We need you, and I look forward to being by your side on that journey. Thank you so much.